I am done. All right. Press B. What's up, dude?
What's up, sir?
Yeah, so I gotta chop it up with you with what we was talking about the other day. So,
Okay.
man, so what's your feelings on churches having great worship services, great events, great things? Because we was talking, one of the things we was talking about, the big time thing we was talking about was discipleship and evangelism being a weakness in the local church. Why do you think evangelism and discipleship is just weak in a lot of churches?
Man, I think, man, like the church in the last, I'm only been a Christian since 2006.
Yeah.
From the time that I've been a Christian, I think what I've seen is the church do a really good job of gathering bodies.
Yeah.
But not really knowing what it practically looks like to create disciples in those churches.
Gotcha.
And so I think the conferences, I think the podcast tours and stuff like that, it's a great way to fill seats.
Yeah.
But I think, man, what initially, sparked revival is Christians going out and being light in dark places, being salt to the world. And it's nothing like when, a fresh soul and a fresh body comes into the church by way of evangelism, because I think that's when we see real zeal and real excitement.
As we, gear up for the conference or whatever, I just want us to really drive away, particularly you, just driving home that idea about the necessity of the church not being about everything else, but getting back to the main thing. Christ-centered looks a certain way. Hold on, Preston, I'm about to get in the car. How do you know, particularly as somebody that's itinerant, how do you find out very, very quickly whether or not a church is making disciples and doing evangelism or not?
Yeah, I think everything has to start from the leadership on down. I think a healthy church, well, I think any church is always essentially going to be a reflection of their leadership.
Yeah.
And, one thing about discipleship is I think every great leader has to be led and has to have a history of being led, which I think will inform him in any leader how they should lead.
Yeah.
And so, one, I think just getting to know the leaders and understanding what stock they come from. And I think that's the hard thing about the age of social media. You get so many people who gain platforms on social media. You really don't know what stock they come from. You don't know who birthed them in the ministry. You don't really know who ordained them as ministers. You don't know nothing. And so I think, especially in the local church context, I think it's very important to know who is your leader's leaders.
Yeah.
Where did he come from? What type of morals he come from? It's just like, when you dating somebody and when the parents meet the person that that their daughter, their son is dating, one of the first thing they want to know is, who are your people?
Yeah.
What did your daddy teach you?
Right.
What did your mama teach you?
Right.
What kind of principles that was installed in you? And I think the same thing goes for church leadership. So I think if the leadership has a healthy view and a history of discipleship, we know that that's kind of the heartbeat of the leadership, and we'll see that trickle on down.
How important is that balance of organized and organic discipleship, you think, to the church?
I think it's huge. I think that the truth is, the organized part of it is those discipleship, type of classes, or we sit down Wednesday chopping it up in the scriptures, or we taking a group of guys and saying, man, for the month of May, we're going to go through this hermeneutics, course, and we're just going to learn how to study the scriptures. I think that's great foundational discipleship building. I think it's essential. I think it's one good way to raise up healthy men in the church. I think men are attracted to the church, especially when they're learning and being equipped. And so I think it's huge, but I also think, we should cultivate environments where people can go deeper one-on-one. You know what I'm saying? Jesus, he changed the whole world essentially by walking with 12 men. And in those 12 men, he was closer to some than others. But, he walked with them. He had conversations with them. You know what I'm saying? And it was organic.
How did you start discipling your barber? You only have to say his name. I'm just saying. How did you end up in a discipleship relationship with him?
Yeah, man. So what's crazy is, my barber, he was following me for some years, and oftentimes I because I am in a local church, but I have a public ministry, so a lot of times online people are always asking me to disciple them, right? Which is actually created more of a burden for me to just preach about discipleship, because I see how much people are hungry for it. And he ironically said, man, some years ago he started praying that he could be my barber so that I can disciple him, because he just wanted to learn.
That's crazy.
And so I was looking for a barber. Online because my barber had, left at the city. And so I put online, I'm looking for a barber, man, to have a barber that can come to my house and be convenient, because I travel a lot and stuff like that. And he was one of the ones that responded. But ironically, so many people had, haircuts on their page. He did not have one haircut on his page, but he DM'd me. And when he DM'd me, I just heard his heart for wanting to learn. It didn't seem like he just wanted to be around me to be around me. It seemed like he really just wanted to learn. And so that made me go look inside his stories. And in his stories, I saw one haircut that looked amazing. I said, okay. And so he was about to go to a wedding. He was about to go to a wedding that day. And he said, man, I'll be late to the wedding, man, if you just let me come and cut your hair real quick. And I said, man, come over to my friend's house and cut my hair. And he came over and he started cutting my hair. He cut my hair for some months. And then as I began to pray, I started to feel like the Lord was like, I want you to walk with this young man. This young man has an evangelism gift, and I didn't bring him in your life just for no reason. So I think it was the sovereignty of the Lord. I think and the intentionality of God that created that, and obedience. You know what I'm saying? So I think some relationships, it just comes organically, and then when it comes organically, we got to figure out, like, is this the Lord? And I thought it was the Lord. So
yeah, I think that's dope, and I know y'all are in the same church now. Man, I just got finished talking to Jackie and Megan about this conference and about the need for it, and it's more than just an event, because one of the things that we pride this event off is not just having main sessions, but also having premium breakout sessions that help people to get research. We want to do inspiration, but we also want to do information that turns into implementation. So, and that helps ultimately with transformation. So that's where we are, man, and wanted to pick your brain about some stuff in pertaining to some of the specific specialties that you have as a minister of the gospel.
That's dope.
It saddens me that people, there's such a lack of discipleship in the church, because I get those messages too. Can you disciple me? Can you mentor me? Kind of thing, which I get. But it's tough for me when somebody is at a local church, but is reaching outside of the local church for discipleship. And so that's why I want us to do what we're doing, so that the church can become more vigilant in disciple making. All right, dude. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Preston.
No problem. Thank y'all. Y'all be blessed.
All right, have a good one.